Hello and welcome back. On today's episode we shall be creating the following. A Shore Trooper helmet from Star Wars. Even though this is based entirely off original plans or that I've sourced from elsewhere, the paint job itself has been designed by me. So in the coming parts of this episode I shall be detailing you with the materials that I have used, the process I have done, and also small adjustments such as the paint job that I have made myself. So let's start by listing the following materials that are being used. Originally, thanks to sketches and plans, people who began doing cosplay in the very beginning or the early 20th century would have done it by hand and measured it out on the page, using huge stencils and drawings and sketches, measuring by hand with all the curves. But thanks to modern technology, we were able to create 3D models and sculpt them first. For instance, these were very easily made by hand, but were then measured and put into a 3D model, so it's able to see what it looks like once putting all the pieces together. Even this Shore Trooper helmet that I am creating has also been created by other people around the world, some of which were 3D printed into segments and then glued together. Instead of me having to slowly and carefully put the pieces together, which has caused problems, and realising having to fill some areas in because of gaps, when 3D printing it, it doesn't leave any gaps because it's accurate and correct. The stencils on which I am using to create the helmet were not created by myself, but have been adjusted in order to fit my head. The original templates for creating this helmet shall be listed from the seller, which I purchased from Etsy, in the description and on screen now. The helmet itself did take some time to create while using these templates because, like I said, I needed to resize them. For this I used a platform called Inkscape, which was at first interesting to use but slowly got the hang of it. I did hope to use Photoshop, but for unfortunate reasons the platform did not accept the software or the files in which the templates came in. So when you're making cosplay or dealing with foam, most people and most common material is EVA foam. This comes in multiple different ranges, sizes, formats, styles, softness. I normally go for soft. It's lightweight, durable, it's easily bendable as well. It's cheaper than the others, it's easier to use and it's good for practice with. This specific one is 5mm. Again, this is more the foundation structure, very much like the outer shell, as you call the skin, the flesh, the skeleton of your cosplay piece. Sometimes you go down to 1mm and that's for heavy detail, and then you would go up to 10mm, which is then for like more strength and hold stuff together. Now begin to open this and start using the templates and cutting it out. A bit hard to open in the last one. This will only take a minute. Just open the damn packaging. Last result. So I finally managed to get all of the foam out of its packaging. This took a bit too long as expected. Definitely won't be buying from these people again. The next stage is to make sure that all of this is flattened out in order for it to be cut later on using the stencils. So for now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to have a nice sit down, let these flatten out, enjoy my book, and have a nice cup of tea while I'm waiting. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, still don't like tea. Keep forgetting that. Originally, before cosplay became a major part in media and in the nerd world, it was more of a fancy dress thing whilst the comic book industry and the comic book world was beginning during the early 1930s to 1940s, which is referred to as the Golden Age. This consisted of the early introductions of Marvel and DC with Action Comics and Superman, as well as the first iteration of Batman. These costumes would have just begun with using basic materials available at hand, such as felts and fabrics. But then over time, more and more things would begin to add, like during the 80s, more and more plastics were then to be added, and rubber and visors and more other types of materials. And now, in the modern day, we now experience more of the fact that people are using foam and 3D printing and metal in some of their actual pieces to make them feel more genuine and realistic. People do tend to go over the top with some of their costumes, but some people change and enjoy creating them and using different things. Some costumes are direct replicas of the original characters that they're creating them from. Some do slightly adjustments. And then there are those who are a bit weird and dress up as characters who really do not assert their own personality, but everyone who is there. But these people will, in general, just create something unique to themselves and what they enjoy, and they will always put their hard-earned time into it, like I am with mine. I am enjoying creating mine, and so do they. Next major step in the process of creating the helmet is that the foam itself is bendable, movable, but like a lot of other materials, it only shapes and transfers when using heat. That's where the heat gun comes in. When using different settings and the different temperatures, it allows me to use it against the foam, bend it, and as it cools, like a lot of other materials, it then stays rigid in that place. Just one thing you've got to make sure of is that you don't want to burn yourself, set the house on fire, or anybody else. Anywho, the next and probably one of the most vital stages of the creation process in creating the helmet is gluing it together. Now, you can't use any old glue for this because otherwise it might damage it. In the past, I've had problems where the glue has actually torn or destroyed, even melted the foam because the chemicals within it haven't exactly worked. Here we go. First one being contact cement. When you apply this, it bonds and goes straight to the pores, so instead of just getting a grip on the surface of an item, it also goes within to the wood, allowing that to have that effect. The other one is PVA glue. This one is more heavy duty, and this will be used for the sealant. You want to make sure you're using all the right glues for this sort of thing, otherwise you'll definitely make sure you don't be using the kiddie stuff, otherwise you'll ruin your project and you look a bit stupid. The next major step in the process of creating a helmet is that you need to coat it all in some form of sealant. The ones I see quite often are highly expensive and take a long time to get here, so the second best option that people use is PVA glue. As I mentioned before, there are many types of glues that you use, but this one is still PVA, but it's heavy duty, it's for DIY, it's for when you're redoing a house or more bigger projects than just in the classroom. This type of glue is prepared between 1 part of how much of leather to 4 parts water. It still has consistency and dries to the state of which it would on everything else, but it helps to absorb into pores and create that sealant and a clean thing, Originally you could feel a lot of the pores when using this, and now on certain areas, especially after now putting 3 or 4 coats onto the helmet, it's very smooth, it's very flush, and most things grab to it. And once that's completed, which it has been here, it's the next stage is to then spray paint it. Thankfully, as a lot of this is already white, as I would recommend using instead of going for instantly black or any other coloured foam, because that takes away, it's hard to get a base coat and it costs more money. I am able to spray paint all the areas that aren't white, and then saves me money, and it saves a lot more money when buying the spray paint. So let's go out to the garage and begin that. As you can see, I have now, hold a second, sorry. There we go, it's much better. As you can see, the helmet has now been officially completed. I do have to say that I have enjoyed the process of creating this item and learning about some of its history and researching into the materials and so on. But I do have to say there have been some problems that I've come across or found to be a problem. But I suppose with anything that you create, there's always going to be a problem, and you learn from it, as Walt Disney had mentioned, and also from the movie Meet the Robinsons, also by Disney. Keep moving forward. Again, hopefully, yeah. Well, I enjoyed making this, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.